This video relates to employee welfare, and as you can see, it's number 3 out of a 4-part series on employee welfare. In this talk we're going to take some miscellaneous topics and see how they impinge on employee welfare. We'll start by looking at absenteeism and in general employee absence from work. Well, the most common reason why people are absent is due to ill health and also workplace injuries. These are the most common reasons for employee absence. Working days lost due to absence causes a loss for the business. So it's in the interest of the business to try and ensure that the workforce are healthy and are keen to participate in what's required of them. So it's important that the business tries to minimize the amount of absenteeism that it encounters. Absences can be short-term or they could be long-term. They can be due to maternity, redundancy, parental leave, reasonable unpaid time off, or trade union action. There's a whole variety of reasons as to why people may be away from their work. This list we've got here, I'm sure it could be extended, but the point is it's very difficult to find a single characteristic as to why people are not working or don't attend work on a particular day. As I said, it could be short term, it could be a minor illness which is stopping them going in, the common cold for example, or it could be long term. It could be a mental problem relating to depression, or they're upset about some aspect of work, or they're worried about going to work, perhaps worried about bullying at work, or worrying about some issue associated with work. It can be due to various circumstances, and the list we've got here is pretty much self-explanatory. Now, the absence procedure, well, the manager affected by the absence should be informed of the absence as soon as possible on the first day of the absence. The manager should be notified that the worker is away and the reason why the worker is away and how long the worker is likely to be away, so that the manager can plan and try to fill that particular role. Employee must complete a return to work form to assess employee health at the end of the absence. So when the employee returns to work, ideally the employee should fill out a return to work form explaining why the absence took place, what measures were taken to resolve the issue that caused the absence, and ensuring that the worker is now fit and capable of performing his or her tasks, and sign that off. The employee must present a medical certificate when absence exceeds 7 days. Well, these are rules related to the UK. In different countries there will be different procedures, but when an employee returns to work after a prolonged period of absence, ideally they should have some medical note to say that they are now fit to work and they are capable. And this, of course, will absolve the employer from any liability. The responsibility for the employee's presence at work is covered by the medical note, and so therefore it's assumed by the employer that the employee can continue with his or her work. The employee must notify managers of any change in circumstances and discuss how the organisation can help. It depends on the nature of the organisation, the type of product being produced, the number of employees engaged in the activity, and so on. But managers should be informed about absenteeism so that they can plan and cover that particular set of tasks. But it may also be that the organisation can provide some help to the employee to facilitate them returning to work. This is particularly the case if the absence was caused by some issue at work, for example, bullying or harassment or whatever. Clearly the management have an obligation to ensure that that does not happen. Now we'll turn to occupational pension schemes. Well, organisations can offer workers a pension scheme. These schemes must provide an attractive package compared to the state pension. So many countries have state pensions, and many countries don't have state pensions. When people get to a certain age and they can't work, they've got nothing. They may have some savings, if they were lucky, over their lifetime, which will sustain them during their old age. But some companies may have pension schemes which enable the employees to pay into the schemes, and when they retire they can draw out of that pension fund. Sometimes the organisations supplement the amount that the employees put in, which of course gives the employees more loyalty to the organisation and means that the employer has a more stable and more dedicated workforce, because they're interested in making sure that they get a pension when they retire. Employees opting into a pension scheme will lose their state entitlement. The State Earnings Related Pension Scheme, or known as SERPs in the UK. Again, it depends on the country, it depends on the procedures, it depends on the current legislation of the country and what the government and the organisations there deem to be appropriate. So it varies from place to place. But it may be the case that employers going into, let's say, a private scheme may lose their state entitlement. Or it may be they go into a private scheme and get two pensions, a state pension and a private pension. It depends. Sick pay. Well, statutory sick pay is an employee's entitlement if they are unable to attend work due to sickness. So sometimes employees have to have time off work due to an illness of whatever, some type of illness, and the employer who value the workers will pay some sort of sick pay. It may be full pay for a certain period of time and then half pay. Of course, the employer will want to have medical evidence that the employee is genuinely ill. An employee is entitled to sick pay after providing 1 year's service. Again, it varies from country to country, so it's important to read what I'm saying here in the context of wherever you happen to be located. But an employee is entitled to sick pay after providing 1 year's service. That's generally the case in the UK. The employee works for the organisation for a year. The organisation then trusts the employee is to be a good worker, committed and loyal to the organisation. So after a year, it's deemed the organisation would know enough about the employee, they would continue the employment, and then the employee would be eligible for sick pay should he or she be away from their workplace. Employers provide for the first 4 weeks of statutory sick pay, after which pay can be claimed back through reduced national insurance contributions. Again, this applies in the context of the UK. It varies from country to country and from practice to practice, but employers may pay sick pay at a full rate, let's say, a full salaried rate for a certain number of weeks, and then reduce it to perhaps half for another set number of weeks, and then perhaps end sick pay completely after another period of time. It depends on what is custom and practice in that particular country. Now you find the same rules apply here when we talk about maternity. The UK will have one set of rules and other countries will have different approaches. So I'm just putting out the UK side just for comparison's sake, and it's worth comparing these with the practice and procedures in different societies. But under the Employee Relations Act 1999, maternity leave is granted for 18 weeks at statutory maternity pay. Additional 29 weeks leave is granted if the employee has completed 1 year's service. So that is the entitlement for maternity leave in the UK. Statutory maternity pay starts at any time from the 11th week before the estimated week of confinement, EWC, and it continues for 18 weeks. So that's the statutory maternity pay. Compassionate leave, again, vary from country to country and from place to place, but domestic problems are a difficult time for individuals, and organisations offer services such as counselling, financial and legal services, etc. So when there are domestic problems, perhaps a bereavement in the family, or an accident within the family, or a family breakup, or whatever it is, then the organisation may support the employee through counselling and financial and perhaps legal services. It depends. Different organisations have different levels of support. The Employment Relations Act 1999 acknowledges domestic problems and grants compassionate leave. However, this is unpaid leave. So employees may be able to take additional time off work because of issues within the family, let's say, but it's unpaid. The employer is not liable to pay that. It's seen as a domestic problem, not involving the workplace, not involving the company, so the company does not have to pay for that situation. But the employee's job would be held open, that when the issues have resolved and the employee is ready to go back to work, his or her job is still available. An organisation can implement policy to offer provisions on the ground of compassionate leave, for example, short-term leave. So organisations they have a legal requirement, as I've mentioned above, but they may go one step further and offer some sort of payment while an employee is away due to illness. Stress and work-life balance. Well, increased workload can cause stress, ill health, accidents, absences, and poor work quality. So it's a question of dealing with stress, and stress is something difficult to measure. There are in fact some people who say stress doesn't exist and the people don't suffer from it. That's perhaps a very harsh line to take. The human brain is an extremely complex organ, and it's not well understood. And sometimes, like all our faculties, it gets tired, perhaps, or it gets stressed, and it needs to rest and recuperate. So it's a question of monitoring stress levels at work. If employees are working continuously and working long hours and working under arduous conditions, they can become stressed. And it's ironic in a sense that many top-level jobs, sometimes the employees have to work long hours, and when they're finished in the office, they take work home with them to complete at home. So there's very little divide between their working life and their social life and their family life. But perhaps that is a source of stress. It's important that organisations offer services to manage stress. And this can be achieved through various programs, for example, in-house or external awareness training. It's important that the organization recognizes the the problem of stress and has some sort of in-house or external awareness training programs for the employees. It may bring in consultants from outside to help the employees cope with stress. Could be in-house, so could be consultant-led skills training in time management, delegating work, and relaxation techniques. But there should be some support for the employees who are working under severe stress, under continuous workload conditions, and working to very fine tolerances. They can't afford to make a mistake, and they have people depending on their output, waiting for them to complete so they can continue their work. These are situations of stress, and the onus is on the organisation to make sure that people are maintained in the same way almost as a machine needs to be maintained. It needs professional attention. The machine needs to be looked after and oiled and checked and so on. People are assets of the business and they need to be maintained as well. And it's important that consultants, experts are brought in to make sure that the workforce are able to cope with the workload adequately. Flexible working arrangements to allow for time off. That might be important. It might be important that the employees who have worked hard for a long period of time can take a day off to try and recover, try to relax and recharge themselves, get back into a productive working mode, because they have had a break and they have recovered from that situation. Stress and work-life balance. Well, stress management techniques offered by organisations, for example, it could be counselling. There could be an expert who is brought in to talk to the employees and listen to their concerns and their issues and try to offer constructive support. It could be a period of time off, taking, say, regular breaks or holidays. That could be a way of dealing with stress and trying to make sure that the employees have time with their families and with their friends and are able to relax and relax properly. There should be training on relaxation techniques. The employees should know how to get their work-life balance together. They should be able to get sufficient exercise and be able to get away from the workplace and have time to consider their own requirements, their own needs, not just the needs of the organisation. There should be delegation of work tasks and to make sure that the workload is managed. First of all, the workload must be appropriate. It should not be excessive. But whatever workload there is, it should be managed. It should be set out logically, and it should be set out in a way that is achievable, and that the worker, the employee, is able to take on that task and cope with it within their capacity. They don't have to exert themselves or spend exorbitant number of hours or work under very stressful conditions. They should be able to work within their capacity. There should be assertiveness training. Manage stress related to personal insecurities. The workforce should be adequately trained to perform the functions. They should have confidence. They should know they're capable of doing it. They should know what the workload is and they should be able to achieve it. The workload itself should be within their capacity. The onus is on management to make sure that they are not asking unreasonable levels of workload of the employees. But the employees should be able to talk to the management and explain to the management about the workload, explain about the conditions in which they're working, and this is valuable feedback to management because this will affect the productivity of the workers as well. Ergonomics. Well, this is a concept of using machines to design efficient working environments. The aim is to develop machinery which help workers achieve their work goals. It's designing the workplace in a way that makes it more efficient. The layout of the plant is more efficient. The layout of the office is more efficient. The equipment is tailored to the tasks, and the employees are adequately trained in the use of that equipment. The use of machinery should support the human body and allow for tasks to be efficiently conducted. Machines should, and indeed machines within the office as well, they should be laid out in a way that it's efficient for the employee to complete their tasks. They don't have to get up from their desk and walk all the way across the office to another desk to pick up something, to bring it back to their desk, to process it, and do this on a continuous level. That's a waste of time and a waste of... they are not being efficient. It would be better if they worked efficiently for some period of time and then had proper relaxation. Ergonomic designs machinery to reduce workplace physical strain. On the shop floor, it's important that the employees are helped by the machines, that the machines enable the employees to work efficiently. That's the purpose of the machine. The purpose of the machine is to facilitate the workflow. But that means the machine will have to be positioned correctly, it'll have to be set at the right tempo of work, the right pace of work, it'll have to deliver the finished output to the right place to enable the worker to be efficient and to help the worker. Health and fitness campaigns. Well, as a part of occupational health, organisations encourage health promotion through campaigns. For example, regular monitoring of health, offer free employee health checks and education regarding maintenance of good health. It's important that the management recognise the contribution of the employees and ensure that the employees are looked after. So regular health monitoring is a way of doing this. There could be fitness campaigns, a free gym for example, and exercise facilities, support and guidance on nutrition and healthy eating plans. It just helps the employee to function properly and make sure that their work-life balance is correct. They have access to a gym and they're able to maintain themselves. They feel good, they feel active and they feel involved, and it not only creates a loyalty to the organisation, but it enables the employees to function correctly and be productive. There's also a payback to the organisation. The employees are more productive as a consequence. Could be anti-smoking, trying to help employees stop smoking because it's unhealthy. But it could relate to alcoholism and drug abuse and all sorts of issues. Provision of good information, counselling service, support services within the organisation, all designed to try and ensure that the employees have healthy lives, stress-free lives if possible, and ones free from injury. So health and safety is foremost in the thinking of the organisation. So these are some of the issues associated with employee welfare that are worth bearing in mind. As I said, this is part 3 of 4. There's one more video to come on this session. So let's leave it at that for the moment in the context of what we just talked about, and say thank you for watching.